This presentation concerns the power of light and its capacity to influence the health of our own species and all the species living on the planet Earth. It's an important piece of the natural environment. I am honored that inVIVO has asked me to present on this topic, and I'm also honored to serve as a scholar for the NOVA Institute. Light enters the eye and stimulates the retina, and as we all know, signals are sent from the retina to the back of the brain, allowing us to see the world around us. Light is something we're highly conscious of in the visual world. There is also a pathway from the retina that goes to important regulatory centers in the brain that are not involved with vision, but rather regulate biological timing and other key functions. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is an internal oscillator, and it distributes information about light and darkness from the environment broadly through the nervous system, as well as information about biological time of day. This shows you a summary of one of the most important discoveries made in this century. This is a diagram of the retina here. The rods and the cones are here. This is what allows us to see the world around us. The cones give us daytime vision. The rods give us nighttime vision. There is a newly discovered photoreceptor down here in the ganglion cell layer called an intrinsically photoreceptive retinal ganglion cell, and it contains this chemical, this important photopigment named melanopsin. The discovery of melanopsin showed us that the rods and the cones give us a conscious visual sense of the world, whereas the melanopsin-containing retinal ganglion cells regulate circadian, neuroendocrine, and neurobehavioral responses in all human beings. Two things are very different about these systems of detecting light. Color vision, if you experience the spectrum at the back end of this graph, is regulated by the cones, and it has a peak sensitivity here in the green-yellow range of the visible spectrum. In contrast, the melanopic photoreceptors have a peak sensitivity in a very different part of the spectrum, the blue appearing part of the spectrum over here. In addition, these two detection systems work on very different levels of sensitivity. The visual system responds to far lower levels of light than do the photoreceptors for biological and behavioral regulation. To summarize where we are in 2021, the eye contains two sensory systems, one for conscious vision and visual reflexes, the other for regulating both short-term effects, such as the secretion of melatonin from the pineal gland, body temperature, secretion of hormones from the adrenal, heart rate, and the other things listed here. There are also longer-term effects, circadian phase shifting and entrainment, sleep physiology, and the putative benefits of light therapy. Considering light therapy, there is a rich literature showing us that light can be used to treat a specific form of affective disorder or seasonal depression, sometimes called seasonal affective disorder or the SAD syndrome. Light therapy has also been shown to be beneficial for certain sleep disorders and non-seasonal depression. And on the frontiers, there's been exploration of light therapy for menstrual cycle disturbances, eating disorders, and comorbidities of senile dementia. There are also non-clinical applications, such as adjusting the body clock in jet lag and shift work, acute alerting and activating effects of light, and improving sleep onset and consolidation. I would like to jump from basic science out to how do you apply this basic science. And the first application I want to show you is one that is being used by NASA for space travel. This shows you the brand new lighting system that has been developed for the International Space Station. It is a spectrum and intensity tunable solid state lighting system. And the engineers at Kennedy Space Center and those working with them knew this physiology, knew that the eye contained two different photoreceptor systems. So they wanted to develop a new lighting system for the space station that was good for vision, but also good for biological and behavioral regulation. Ground studies on the physiological efficacy of this technology have been being done at Johnson Space Center, my university, Thomas Jefferson University, Harvard, and MIT. This shows you the astronaut Kate Rubins. Dr. Rubins is famous for being the first astronaut to sequence DNA during spaceflight. But during her visit to the space station, she also installed the first of these tunable solid-state lighting systems in her crew sleeping quarters. This is intended to be a countermeasure for sleep and circadian disruption in astronauts, which has been well evidenced. This shows you Dr. Rubins after she unpacked the first unit and before she installed it. As of today, 82 solid-state modules have been installed on the space station in the United States, the Japanese and European modules of the station. A study on 7 astronauts is in progress, which is a collaboration between Johnson Space Center, again, my university, and Harvard. So use of light for improving the health and well-being of astronauts is important to NASA, but can it be used here on Earth in a similar manner? We have been translating spacecraft lighting to lighting in an intensive care unit at Jefferson Neuroscience Hospital. We are focusing on 2 categories of patients that have concussions or mild traumatic brain injury, and patients that have much more serious brain injury from stroke, ischemic and hemorrhagic stroke. This advanced lighting system has some of the characteristics of what has been installed on the space station and is being adapted for studies of patients to see if it can improve their circadian adaptation, their sleep, and their mood disturbances as a result of their clinical disabilities. I've shown you 2 applications of electrical lighting, but we must not forget daylighting. That's the natural light that we evolved under, and daylight, skylight, shown here on a picture from my campus, is very rich in the blue part of the spectrum, which is capable of stimulating the melanopic photoreceptors. In contrast, incandescent light, which is familiar in most people's homes, is much richer in the red and depleted in the blue. Altogether, the data that have emerged provide many opportunities for new and exciting applications and a better understanding of how the human eye fosters our health and well-being. Thank you for your attention.